All right, well, welcome everyone. This is the SIG Windows meeting for the 13th of August, 2019. So I've got the agenda up here, but feel free to add other items if there's other questions or things you want to cover on there, or drop things in the chat on Zoom. So as this is an official community meeting, please be sure that you adhere to the Kubernetes Contributor Code of Conduct. All right. So on the agenda for today, looks like we've got some discussion around how we finished setting up the end-to-end testing with group managed service accounts. Looks like there's a couple options to work through there. I added something around basically starting to scrub and burn down the issues we have on 116. So I can go through that discussion after that. But what I wanted to make sure was that we got this backlog basically down to 0, so that I've just got one column that the release team can track for what we're planning to merge in 16 versus not. Looks like we've got a number of people back from holidays, so hope everyone had some good time off. I see some faces I haven't seen in a couple weeks. So I guess with that, go ahead and kick off the domain controller discussion, Jeremy.
Sure. So I put in a PR yesterday to merge the extension I made for AKS that sets up it'll set up a separate pool of one server and run it through creating a domain, promoting a domain controller, and creating the group managed service account. So that way we can actually run end-to-end tests against that node that we can actually check and make sure that the domain communication is working the way it should. There's been a number of comments on it since I put it in yesterday, and I haven't been able to address all of them yet, but I'm hoping I can get through them today.
Okay. All right.
I think we also wanted to point out the fact that it doesn't actually need to go into AKS engine for the 116. I think we can host it in the Windows GMSA repo that we have and pull it in. But I think what will need to change maybe from Adelina is the AKS engine template that's passed in. So that needs to point to this extension, and the extension will be hosted in a Kubernetes SIG repo and stuff in AKS engine. And it'll get pulled down and configure the GMSA and stuff that is needed. So just wanted to add that clarification that it does not need to actually get into AKS engine. It's more there for a review. And it might have some test-specific things that may not make sense for AKS engine. So I guess the main thing here is just a heads up that we do want this for Azure or the AKS engine-based test infra that we have. And this would be coming in pretty soon.
Okay. I'll take a look at this and get some feedback from the AKS engine team on whether or not they want to maintain that in this repo versus in the separate one. Deep's right in that both are possible. Yeah, so I'll have to review that later. So in addition to getting something like this merged, then your proposal would be to also set up a separate job just to test GMSA as a periodic, once a day thing, or what other work would be needed to get this fully covered in E2E?
Yeah, so I think what this does is it sets up a separate pool, basically, which has the DC, the primary DC in there with the GMSA configured. And there would be a simple E2E test that will just try to SSH into the machine, get the cred spec that's needed, configure the cred spec, and run a full end-to-end GMSA test, which was one of our beta graduation criteria. So
Okay.
that's what the goal is.
And
now,
PR for that second step or not?
No, that is being worked on right now
Okay.
for the actual E2E. And the other question we had is, this is fairly Azure specific, so it'll work with the main test grid. I think that gets consulted. But for GCE and the other test grid around VMware, I think there we need to think how this can be replicated as well. But I guess that can come a little later, and that's okay.
Well, for the other cloud providers, I mean, the test would still work as long as you had a domain controller set up and the cred spec created. So the test itself should work. I mean, the AKS extension is really just trying to automate the whole thing.
Exactly. Good point. So we'll have to figure out that setup step separately for GCE, for example.
Yeah.
Right, which we can document.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just did a couple quick searches, and it looks like Azure's got something that they call, I haven't ever tried deploying this, Azure Active Directory Domain Services, which is really confusing because Azure Active Directory, those three words, is a different product, but apparently the domain services says that it does actually have, says that it's fully compatible with Windows Server Active Directory. So there's a chance that might make setup easier, but this is the first I've looked at that. And I noticed then there's also a service listed over for GCE that I don't know if these are like comparable or not because I haven't used either one yet, but it says that they've got a managed service for Microsoft Active Directory, which is actually wrong. It should say Windows Server Active Directory. That's the trademark, not Active Directory, but
well, we use Azure AD in my place of employment. So if you want to chat real quick with that after the meeting, or if you have time later, I'll be happy to chat with you about it.
Okay, but it's the domain services option, not the cloud identity one.
Right, that one's more for either standing up your AD strictly in the cloud or setting up a hybrid with your on-prem AD.
Okay. Well, we could talk more about that later then.
So I think the next steps here would be just to get our test up, and then we work with maybe Adelina to get the changes in the template.json that's used by AKS Engine. And I think she already tried it out and it worked out okay. So this will just like formalize the whole thing.
Actually, when I tried it out, I had some problems, but that was a long time ago. I mean, I guess 2 months ago or something like that. But I'll look over the PR and AKS Engine and give it a try. To see how it would integrate, because we basically have a similar environment like the upstream trial, so it will be pretty much the same thing. My only let's not say concern, my only question here is exactly how we would set this test. Would we add it to a conformance run that we already have, or I was thinking maybe we would make a separate the job that we were actually discussing, with some alpha features and some other stuff. So, for example, the run as username would also be in that category.
Yeah, so I was thinking like today we specifically skip the GMSA test as part of the E2E run. And once the E2E is working, maybe we just uncomment or like, remove the GMSA test from that skip list.
Well, can we put a feature tag for GMSA on those tests? So maybe we could just say,
absolutely.
So our include could be, feature GMSA and feature run as username or something like that.
Definitely.
Okay.
Because I was thinking of this more in terms of resources, because the periodic job that we have for staging, and the staging one is fairly often. I think it runs 6 times a day. So you would imagine that adding an extra machine would kind of bump the requirements.
So this is actually not an extra machine. It's just one of the machines that's prepared a little specially, which is like, it runs the PowerShell to promote it to a GA. But that's pretty much the only change. It's the same worker pool, but one of the nodes are created in a separate pool.
Okay, because my understanding was that we had 2 different pools.
It's 2 different pools, but basically, like, let's say if you had like 3 Windows workers before, this will now have 2 in the initial pool and in the original pool, and 1 in this special pool.
In the special pool, they would just add this GMSA. Yeah, okay.
DC
then
promo stuff, right?
Yeah, and you can still schedule other workloads against that one. It was just that the GMSA tests have to be done on that one.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't look through the test, but how is there a special label on that node, or how?
Exactly. So as Jeremy figured out yesterday, the AKS engine will mark it as it'll have a specific tag that the test will use, and as part of the setup, we will also add through AKS engine another specific tag that says this is a primary DC. And the test can use both tags basically to figure out that, oh, this is the VM that we need to SCP the cred specs from, and then basically go around doing the test.
Okay. Go ahead, Patrick, sorry.
So as far as scheduling the test case, though, it can still run on any node, right?
Correct.
Okay. It's just that one node has the extra setup and you need to get the files from it. But that's all done as part of the CSE. It's not done as part of it's not done from within the pod.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the test. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll as I said, I'll try it I'll try that in RM, the extension, and I'll come back with whatever feedback is necessary. Just to mention, I think it'll probably be faster, or if it's strictly a testing thing, I will the GMSA extension. I mean, if it's strictly a testing thing, I mean, if it's written in the sense of my 2 cents is, it will probably best go in Windows testing, where we already have extensions for testing. But again, that's just my opinion there.
I'm not sure I got the last point. Can you please repeat?
The extension, I think it's probably its place. It will be better to have the extension in the Windows testing repo, where you already have extensions.
Oh, I see. Totally. Yeah. That makes sense. Absolutely.
But that's just my 2 cents. It's easier to maintain templates and whatever. But at the end of the day,
totally makes sense. Yeah. So I guess Jeremy will just have to redirect the PR towards the testing repo then.
Yeah. I think that makes sense, because I want to make sure nobody confuses this as something that's like production supported.
Great point. Yeah.
Because this is not secure. Well, I mean, rather, it's not secure for business data.
Right.
The way it's being set up, it's got probably has hard-coded passwords and some stuff like that, which would be a
great point.
Yeah, which would be a bad idea. But yeah, I think the Windows testing repo makes sense if we want to keep it consistent. And so I'll just double check with the other folks working on AKS engine and see if they agree on that or not. Okay. But yeah, thanks for all the hard work on that. I didn't realize that had gone that far already, so that's good. Let's see here. So I can see who's on the call. Do anybody want to discuss potential options around GCE today, or should we postpone? Oh no, okay, I do see Yuju on the call.
Yeah. Yeah, I also haven't looked at the testing setup. I also didn't notice that it's already almost done. So
Yeah.
I will look into like whether it's possible to set up this using GCE. And you also just mentioned that there's the Google GCP managed service Active Directory
Mm-hmm.
that is still in alpha. So I'm not sure if we can use it for testing, but that's also an option maybe in the future that we could use as well.
Yeah, and I think you've got a contact on that team already, so they might have some feedback around this.
Yeah, the only thing is it's in alpha, so we probably need to see if we can access it.
Okay.
Right. So I think overall, just to get back, like I think the test will be done in a way so that it just looks at a generic tag besides the case engine tag. So as long as we can tag the node where the DC promo has happened, I think we are all good from the test side. So that's the part that will need to be figured out for GC.
Okay.
Yeah. And the remaining item for beta was the cleanup PR. I think that's probably already in Yuju's radar. And I think besides those two, we are kind of ready for beta.
Was this the, oh, I don't see it.
The PR in, I think, to clean up things in Docker shim.
Yeah, that's yep.
Yeah, I'll get back to that. I looked at it initially, but I think that was probably too
complicated.
yeah, too advanced for the Docker shim cleanup. I think a simple one would do. Yeah.
This is one from Gene, right? Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, it got simplified since, so it's worth having another look into. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, excellent. I got that on the list there. Well, I scrolled past it. Okay, it's on the list. That's all that matters. Okay. All right. So moving forward onto this, I did a quick look at the stuff that's in progress here. These first ones around updating WinCat and the pause image. I'll go ahead and take those. Unfortunately, this one, I'm trying to get Michael to approve it. When we set up the SIG Windows Tools repo, we unfortunately only put 2 approvers on it, and he's out right now. So I sent him an email. I'm hoping he can, if he sees it, he can go in there and say approve, and then that'll get merged. And then I'll go ahead and open a PR to get this one merged in there as well, so that hopefully we can get both of those done at once, and I can just update that pause image. Claudia's got a PR that's in review here for an update to the DNS tests. So that one seems to be on track. The one that is, let me get that up there. The run as username test case PR is open. So we need a review on that, but I don't think there's anything blocked on that. Oh wait, we got the wrong. Okay, so get that cleared up. Okay, that PR is there. Okay, so those ones are all basically, need to be reviewed. So we'll be pinging people on those. So we need to get that driven down to 0. The stuff that I wasn't sure about, I still have in this backlog item. And so if we don't have anybody working on it actively, I think I want to take it out and just put it back in the general backlog. So that way we're tracking what we know is in progress, because all this stuff needs to be merged by the 29th. So we have just 2 weeks left in the milestone for 1.16. So the CSI plugin stuff, is this something that's still in progress for 1.16?
Yeah, so I'll have a PR for that by most likely end of day today. So I'll have to add that to the backlog.
Okay.
Yeah, that's mainly for the entry stuff. So that should go in by today.
Okay. This next one was actually tracking a Windows issue. I'll have to double check on this one because I know we were looking for an ETA on a fix for that.
Yeah, I think that one is probably fixed. We just need to re-enable it and see if the test will still pass.
Okay, cool. Then in that case, I'll move that over to the right column. Yeah, so so if Peter can just double check that, then we should be good to go.
And I know there's one Jing from SIG Storage is working on, is that we get the disk usage or the usage of a volume, but we actually report a whole disk for empty dirt or other volumes. I know she's working on the PR. I'm not sure if this is tracked here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is for the ephemeral storage calculation?
Right. I'm working on unit tests and we'll send out PR soon. So basically it's use a recursive call to walk down the directory tree and get each file directory size and
Oh, okay. Okay, I remember that one. That was the one. That was the discussion we had around FS stat behavior on Unix. Gave you the size bytes, and Windows we have to do a recursive.
Linux they use du command directly, but
okay.
they do the same thing.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I don't know if there would be any concern about the usage of running the command. I know du is very resource heavy. I don't know what the new solution for Windows will be.
So I think it's basically the same. So depending on your directory, the tree size, and if you have a huge tree and a lot of levels, it will take a little bit time to walk down the whole tree.
Yeah, the good news is that should still be pretty quick though, because the almost all that metadata is cached in memory, so it should be a pretty quick thing.
Yeah, I plan to maybe just test with some kind of create a directory tree with different level, different size, and just check the how much time it takes, how much resources it use.
Okay. Yeah, and if you got any questions on that stuff, feel free to ping me, or if Nick's available on Slack, he'd probably be another good person to look at that as well, if you got questions around that.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we still have some stuff around KubeADM. Do you have any updates on that? I lost track of names on here. Kalia, I don't know if you're on the call.
I pushed a lot of fix-ups yesterday, so the script is in working condition.
Okay, cool.
The only thing that needs to change is I'm going to pull the CNI binaries from the container networking plugins page.
Okay.
Which shouldn't be too hard. I just don't know what's in there yet. But other than that, it's good. And I validated, you could see the commits, I validated help, reset, join, all that. So
okay, cool.
Yeah,
Right.
David's going to help me validate.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, that'll be great. So Ben, I know there was some discussion around the empty dir volume end paths. Have you had a chance to look at this to see if that's still a problem? Oh wait, is Ben on the call?
I can help to take a look at this too. Yeah.
So I think these tests have been passing on the Azure environment.
I think the test itself has been fixed, but the fact that empty dir is not really has the permission equivalent to 777 in Linux is still a problem.
Yeah, it's different from Linux, right? Here it means user group and all, they have read-write executable. But for Windows, it's different, right? We can say the user have the full permission, but
Yeah, I think the problem is not every user has the permission to write to empty dir.
why do we need to give all users the right permission?
So
Maybe, yeah.
So the difference is that the container has a different security database from the host. And so if the problem is that this is happening where users creating the container can't access files on empty dir, then you could basically, when you create the empty dir, you could set a you could basically do the equivalent of doing the set owner bit. Well, that's not even, there's no Unix equivalent for this, but you could set an ACL that will be inherited by all child files and directories such that it would be readable by all users.
Do we need read-write for all users, both? Oh, there.
Well, that's what's saying in the issue. Okay, let me leave that one there and just try to take a closer look at it and make a decision on it. We only got 1 minute left. Is anybody looking at pod auto-scaling tests? Do you happen to know anything about this, Adelina or Claudio?
Yeah, they pass. We have no issue with it. We have to include them in the runs. But they have the serial thing that we have to separate, if you remember.
Okay. But, okay, so I'll double check and see if, so if that's scheduled, can you just add a comment on there that this is already done?
Sure.
Okay. Can access default service. Just trying to see if this one's actionable. So this one looks like a DNS issue related to, or possibly a routing thing set up in VX or specific to Flannel. I'm going to move this one out just because it doesn't look like that's probably something that would be 116 specific. And then this last one, Ben said he was going to look at it, so we'll try to get that I'll ping him again on that. So we're out of time. Did anybody have any other last minute stuff?
I add 2 items in the doc, but we don't have time, so maybe we can talk next meeting. One is CSI proxy related to iSCSI API, and the other is I want to discuss the caching behavior for writing files in Windows.
Okay.
I can also ping offline.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Oh, I just saw this here. Okay, crap.
Ching, I can probably follow up with you about the iSCSI APIs.
Yes.
Yeah. Michelle also pinged me about it, so
sure.
In chat. Yep.
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry, you put it up there at the top. Okay. I'll just put a note on there for next week. So if we don't get to it offline, then we'll be able to cover it next week. So
sounds good.
And then next week, Michael will be back and driving the meeting. I'm going to be out Tuesday, but we could talk about this storage stuff on Slack too. So, okay, all right. Well, thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right. Bye.